Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it is the Avengers of current culture and life games, but we have a Thanos level threat. And whenever we have Thanos level events, we have to go get our Chicago, Wakanda, Hollywood fixer. And he's here. It's my man, Eman. Y'all seen him on one of our reviews before, one of our live streams. Eman, how you doing today, brother?
I am good, man. Thank you so much for inviting me back. I really do appreciate it.
Hey, man, we appreciate it because we know sometimes doing these things by yourself, we want to break up the monotony a little bit, let you have some fun, almost like we're interviewing you. And we all, of course, we're about networking and plug your channels. If you guys have not seen his reviews and the things he's doing with interviews on his channel, the link is in the video description. Go on ahead down there, subscribe to his channel now. But before we get in there, Eman, I got to give the people a little insight about you.
Okay.
So on this live stream, we're going to cover Will and Jada. He's our man on that. We're going to talk about the movie review of Fatal Affair, which is where I got to stop him.
Okay.
Now, are we not going to ask him about Nick Cannon?
You know what, Larry? Larry, look, I got my pen
on here.
I got my pen. I got my pen. So let me put Nick
we can throw the whole agenda out.
Yeah. Let me put Nick Cannon down there. Look, I have the pen, the one Barack Obama used. So I put Nick Cannon on the list. But this one is sticking in my craw, Larry. This man, if you go to his channel, this week he did a review and he did an interview. He interviewed one of my sweetie pies from the 90s. Not only did he interview this woman, but he gave her a joke that had her laughing so big her ears got wet from her teeth smiling. And I was highly offended.
I was highly yes. Every time that name comes through,
I was highly taken aback that this man had the woman laughing that I'm supposed to be making laughing. And if y'all think I'm lying, I got the proof. I got the Whitney Houston receipts. Take a look at this. Boy.
This is Eman from Eman's Movie Reviews out here in Chicago. Excuse me one second. Ms. Nia Long, it is such a pleasure to be able to speak to you today. I am a longtime fan, and shout out to you on your very first producer credit. By the way, hey, you know, Omar, Steven, y'all cool too. You know,
hey, you got it, bro.
You got okay, cool. I'm just being stupid.
We're enjoying watching you do this, man.
Look, I just need my wife to skip this part. But anyway.
You know what's funny? What's funny? There was another like little bit of that video that did not make it. I couldn't get it from the Critic Association that recorded it. But at the very, very, very end of that entire interview, you know, everybody signing off, everybody saying like, okay, all right, thank you, all right, see you, bye. And like as everybody's signing off on this big Zoom call, right? I want to say it was like 2 other critics left, and Nia stayed on the call. So I'm sitting there like, don't let this go to one-on-one. Don't stay on this call. So like right before it cut off, I was like, all right, well, I can die happy now. Ooh, Nia chuckled her booty off.
Oh, yes. He's sticking the knife in my back.
I'm just saying, I couldn't let that get it couldn't make it to the video, but I just wanted to put it out there. That did happen. That did happen.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm living through your grace. I'm living through your grace. My man was so smooth that he had the other men on the thing upset. Talk about a smooth criminal. Michael Jackson up in the building. So
they were like, they were bound. They were like, we love seeing it. They were like, respect.
Right. I thought they was about to invite him to be on the next show that they do, the next movie that they do. So, E-Man, the people are watching right now. I just gave y'all a clip. If you want to see more, you got to go to the man channel and subscribe. He is a professional Black reviewer. Give us your candid review of the movie Fatal Affair, and then tell us a little bit about your interview. What did you learn about Nia Long specifically that we don't know?
You want the interview first or the review?
Larry, which one you want first, the review or the interview?
Let's talk about the interview since we're already
okay. Well, for one, the question that I asked her in that, and I won't reveal what she said, but like, I asked a hypothetical question. The movie was about, a fatal attraction, stalker, lover, triangle type of thing. And I was like, hey, what would you do different than your character if if what happened in the movie happened to you in real life? So I tried to ask like a very fun hypothetical question, because you would think somebody be like, man, look, after the first text, I'm calling the police, or man, I'm pulling out the strap, or something. I'm thinking she's gonna say something like that. Nah, she was like, I had real stalkers. I was like, whoa. Oh, so the interview just went a whole different level, and then Omar chimed in and was like, yeah, I also had a stalker. I was like, whoa. So you definitely want to go listen to their stories and everything during the interview, but that was definitely something I did not know. I guess you could kind of assume that with celebrities that they probably have stalkers, but that's not something that always gets talked about. Right, it's not always, unless it gets like really crazy. Yeah. So that was something that I learned differently, new about her, and the fact that she produced this, and this was like the first time she ever produced something. And I just, I love that. Like, I love, especially like in the Hollywood industry, when Black folks are able to have their name on something and be in charge of stuff. Like, that's dope to me,
I agree. Who directed it?
Sullivan. I think it's Peter Sullivan directed it.
Yeah, Pete Sullivan.
So yeah, that was cool. I mean, the interview, I definitely also recommend that you guys check out the full interview on the African American Film Critic Association's YouTube channel. They post a full, it's like an hour long. So, but the cool thing about it is when because what I'd like to do, I like to research whoever I'm interviewing first. Like I will go and watch like a couple of hours of your other interviews, because I already understand as a celebrity, you're sitting there doing 5 different interviews in like a couple of hours, sitting in the same place all day, and that stuff can get boring. So I don't want to sit here and ask you the same question over and over and over again. So I always try and like research a little bit, and then throw a curveball at you, something to make you think, something to make you laugh. So just to kind of wake you up a little bit. But yeah, that's definitely something to check out. But as for my review for the movie, the headline I put,
I'm stuttering starting off.
I didn't know you wanted me to talk about the movie.
Okay, well, let me make it simple.
I'll tell you the headline I gave. The headline I gave was, if BET made a Lifetime movie on Netflix. That's what Fatal Affair is.
Oh, not like that.
That's what it is, but that's what it is.
Wow.
It is, Larry.
And the thing is, I'm trying to be very fair. Take that for however you want. If you like BET movies, if you like Lifetime movies, it's on Netflix. This is all you. Now, if you are like me and you don't particularly care for that, you like, so.
Yeah. Well, let me say this. Say this in response, because me and Larry did the trailer review for it last week, and we categorically said we love everybody that was in the movie, but we weren't going to watch it.
I feel that.
Fast forward to a week.
Yeah.
My favorite people on YouTube, Black folks that do reviews, Pay Her Weight. Y'all saw it, so I said to myself,
she was on that call too, by the way. Pay Her Weight.
I know.
She was on there.
Yeah. We're gonna have her. We're trying to get her Monday because we want to torment her. Larry likes to torment her when he brings her on the show.
Tell her I said what's up. Cool.
As a matter of fact, I'm gonna have y'all together one day.
That's cool too.
We saw it, and me and Larry felt like, okay, we've seen Hollywood do this story over and over and over again. Yeah. But me and my wife sat down and watched it, and I have to be honest, it was not as bad as I thought it was going to be. I actually enjoyed Nia Long. I actually enjoyed it.
Okay.
To say I enjoyed it doesn't mean that I'm saying it's a blockbuster classic.
Right.
Right.
So, yeah, it's on Netflix. It's on Netflix.
It is okay. All right, that's what I was wondering. Maybe I'll check it out tonight. I pretty much when I saw the trailers, I was like, I'll pass.
Yeah,
you know.
I'll be honest. If I didn't have that interview lined up, I wouldn't have watched it.
Yeah,
it's just it wouldn't have been something on my radar to even try to see. You know,
if you and Sharonda had not reviewed it, I wouldn't have watched it.
And part of it is too is like, I mean, I like Nia Long, so I try and support when I can. So I may have, if it had been a different time, I may have decided to watch it. But I'll be honest with you, with the way things are going right now in the country and the world in general, I find myself leaning towards more feel-good movies.
My wife is literally exactly like that. Like she don't want to watch nothing serious no more. No dramas, no nothing. Just comedy, lighthearted. So I feel you on that.
And I'm okay with action joints. Like the Old Guard was decent. I'm okay with that. I mean, it's stuff that, there's stuff that you don't have to worry about suspending your disbelief because it's so far gone from reality. You're just like, okay, whatever. It's escapism at that point.
Right.
I don't want anything that could be real.
Because it seems like we're living in some dystopia America. Some of the things going around, it's like you're living in a movie every day. And my man lives in the Chicago area, so he's getting something on a different level than what me and Larry might be seeing. Times the COVID-19 stuff going on in the background. So,
it's a lot.
Man, we appreciate you, man. Like I said, I follow you quietly. Well, I can't say quietly because I'm always clicking on your stuff on Instagram, but I really enjoyed the interview. When you made Nia Long smile, I just acted like you took a line from what I would have done, and I enjoyed every minute of it. Like I said, the movie is not as bad as I thought, but hey, we conquered that one. Now the main meat and potatoes of why we invited this man here, Larry, Will and Jada Pinkett-Smith. You are our heavy hitter, baby. Tell us what is the deal with Will and Jada Pinkett-Smith for those of us that are in the dark?
Man, so about like supposedly around 4.5 years ago or so, Will and Jada were on the rocks. According to Will, he was practically done with her. We don't really know exactly what that means, but with any relationship, marriage, something was happening where they were drifting apart. Some people are blaming it on Jada. Some people are saying maybe it was Will. But the crazy thing is just the fact that they've always had so many rumors, surrounding their marriage that like
they had rumors for a while that they were swingers,
that they're swingers, that it's open, that Will might be bi. Like it's so many things that it's hard to really say like what's true or not. So the real reason why this really caught some traction was because somebody within those rumors actually stepped forward, and that was in August Alsina. So he had went on Angela Yee's show from the Breakfast Club, and he had confessed, or it was just brought up, that he was heartbroken, after being in like a for real relationship with Jada Pinkett-Smith, and that little bit of validity was all people needed to be like, yo, so that was real, like, so this, and then it was like he just kept on talking and revealing more about basically how much Jada kind of like helped him out. Their son, I believe Jaden Smith, like introduced August to the family. So you can kind of assume how awkward that is. But
banging his moms.
Right. But at the same time, people are also kind of, putting a little blame on Jada too, because she's almost like twice his age. But not that the age difference is so much the issue, but more so the fact that he was, according to them, emotionally damaged and he was sick in a sense. So Jada's kind of coming in as this, let me help you, let me be there for you, kind of like in this, protective, healing role. But at the same time, and I would say due to her own admission on the Red Table Talk, she was also getting something from that, from a sexual nature to fix herself, and Will was taking that a whole different type of way, Now, again, some people are throwing in more rumors because there was, I want to say around 2015, 2016, which would be around the 4.5 year mark. Focus came out with Will Smith and Margot Robbie. And there were a lot of rumors at that time that Will and Margot were, a little extra close. So Suicide Squad too, so it was kind of like, okay, what's really going on? Now, I don't really know, and I don't think anybody really knows like who stepped out first, but according to them, they both had just mutually separated at that time, like during that period. So Will was doing his thing and Jada was clearly doing her thing. I want to say though that Jada's relationship with August, it only recently like stopped, like a couple of months ago, not a couple of years ago, but a couple months ago. So, in that time period, Will and Jada have still come together and reconciled whatever issues that they had. As Will said on the Red Table Talk, and I strongly recommend, I mean, look, if you're even remotely interested in this story, I would recommend actually watching the Red Table Talk because it is pretty revealing. And just good entertainment TV. But Will was like, yo, like, I'll love you through anything, and a lot of people were kind of commenting on how hurt he looked, which I guess you could kind of suspect because you're talking about a very dark period in a relationship. It's gonna be hurtful, especially if it's something that supposedly y'all have already overcome. And now it's only relevant again because it's new to everybody else.
Right.
So despite the fact that, they got themselves together and everything, I think August is more so like hurt because, well, Jada picked Will, which was kind of like, I mean, dog, it wasn't even solidified that they was done. So what did you really expect? But
she had already picked him. I mean, she was married to him. I mean, he was right. He could be upset or hurt, but he was the jump off in that sense. So I mean,
exactly.
You always gonna go back to who your spouse is.
Right.
Always.
Unless the papers are signed. Like if the papers aren't signed, it's like what do you really expect? So and then of course, during this whole thing, if you've heard the word entanglement, this is where it's come from. Because as and it was so ironic because Jada, even though memes were flying, the internet was going wild when all this stuff was happening. Everybody was like, man, Jada better bring herself to the Red Table Talk. And she posted that as a tweet. She was like, man, it's time for some healing. I'm going to bring myself to the table. And Will came on there and Will had to pretty much pressure her to make her tell her side of the story. She like, I got into a little situation with August. He like, a situation? What? And she was like, I got into an entanglement with him. Will was like, well, you tell the people what an entanglement. You was in a relationship, okay? So,
when they said that word entanglement, I thought the first thing I thought of was Robert De Niro in what was that? The one with Kevin Costner with the Untouchables.
Oh,
he was around that table. Instead of entangles, he was like enthusiasms.
Yes,
enthusiasm.
Yes.
That's what I started thinking.
And all these euphemisms for just a relationship. But yeah, it's definitely been a mess. And my whole thing has been like, first of all, I just look at this as entertainment. You know what I'm saying? Because like some people seem way too invested into their relationship. Yeah. I'm like, first and foremost, Will and Jada never put their relationship out there as the standard for all Black marriages. We put that on them as a society, right? And then on top of that, Will and Jada never talk about really their relationship. We kept feeding into that with rumors and stuff.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, they were never obligated to even tell us anything. You know, they didn't have to confirm, they didn't have to say nothing. But what ended up happening was, after all this news and stuff with August was coming out, people that were like their representatives or whatever were being quoted saying, oh, Will said this relationship never happened. Oh, Jada said this never happened. So Will and Jada was like, okay, we didn't say that. So we're going to have to actually come on this Red Table Talk and put our truth out there. And that's literally the only thing they're obligated to do. They don't have to tell us about their marriage. They don't have to tell us about, you know, whatever's going on and stuff. Like, hey,
they're not even obligated to. They're not even obligated to put the truth out there. It's their marriage. I mean, I get it because they are public figures.
Yeah.
They decided that they wanted to recapture the narrative, so other people didn't tell their story the way they wanted it to be told. Instead, they want the story to be told as they saw it.
Yep.
But when I saw them hit that couch, I was thinking to myself, oh yeah, their marriage, they try and make it seem like everything's copacetic, but I think their marriage is still very, very much on the rocks. Like, I feel like they did not want to go on that, especially, well, probably Jada too, but I think Will probably did not want to go on that couch and talk about to the whole world how his wife was sleeping with some other man.
Yeah.
And I imagine
like 20 years younger.
Yeah. Right. And I imagine that if that happens again, that their marriage will be over, because I can imagine behind the scenes he was probably like, I'm gonna do this shit one time and then that's it. Ever again, there's not gonna be a second time on this couch.
Yeah, I mean, he had said something like at the end of the interview, like, you know, and I'm gonna get you back, you know, and she was like, you already got me back. And so you know, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, so many rumors, we don't know what you're referring to. Are you talking about that thing with Margot Robbie, or that Hitch thing with Eva Mendes? Like, we don't know. So, you know, it is what it is.
Part of the problem is that you often hear about men, you know, I mean, not just celebrities. We hear about the celebrity men, obviously, because those are the ones that people talk about. But, you know, men get linked with other women. And I think part of the problem is with relationships and affairs outside of marriage for men versus women. Men have a tendency to go out there and seek out sexual relationships. And that's it. They're not emotionally invested. They could go and have sex with another woman, some Insta thought or some other fellow actress while they're on set for 2 or 3 months. And then when they're on to the next movie, it's like someone clicked a switch, boom, they're done with that because it was nothing. There was no heart bond or anything like that. It was just, they were there. They enjoyed their company, both physically, maybe intellectually. And then when they're done, they're done. I think with women, it's the opposite. I think that they're generally looking for some sort of emotional connection. And so you do end up with entanglements, because it's not just something where you just want to go ahead and get your physical satisfaction on and then walk away. It becomes much more, which is the reason why, you know, August fell in love.
Yeah.
You know?
And to your point, during the conversation, she literally said, I was so unhappy for a long time, and I just wanted to feel good.
Right.
So
and
there was a deficit. She's basically saying there's a deficit in their marriage.
Something.
And instead of saying we need to part ways for a little while, maybe recapture our magic, I'm gonna stay here with my deficit and go seek what I want from someone else. And like Larry said, women tend to get heavily emotionally invested. And she got emotionally invested in someone that was already damaged and someone that was younger, looking up to her as like a role model in essence. And, you know, he probably hung on to everything she said. And I would be willing to bet the person that made the first move probably was Jada.
You know what's interesting? I forget the guy's name, the comedian's name, but Ryan, God, what is it? Ryan something. But he be doing YouTube videos and Facebook videos or whatever. But he said like that was kind of like the definition of toxicity, right? Because what ends up happening is when you're so toxic, you poison the people and things around you. And it's one of the most telling things is why August now he talks just like Jada does. You know, he talks in that weird, healing and philosophical and this and like he talks in her mannerisms, and it's like he could have been very impressionable during a very sensitive, vulnerable time in his life. And Jada, she has a very strong personality. You know what I'm saying? If you watch any of her Red Table Talk, she's a strong personality. So, maybe that adds to the whole predatory claims and stuff that people are putting on her. But
I mean, it could be, too, if you're a young dude like he is, and you have this woman, she's a bit older than you, she's more mature, she's successful, and she's showing you all this attention, and here she is, she's married to the biggest movie star, the most successful actor in Hollywood right now, and you're thinking, oh, she must really care for me, she must really love me because she's risking all of this for me.
Yeah.
Like here she is with this guy who everybody bows down to, all these women love and throw themselves at, men love and throw themselves at, and she's risking all of this for me. She must really love me, and it would become very easy for her to convince him, I think, and very easy for him to be convinced of whatever it is that she tells him because of that. And I don't know. It's
true that.
I guess we'll just have to see where it goes, man. Do you think that I had this debate with a friend now because of the way they've kept their relationship kind of buttoned up? You didn't know which way to go. And now that this information is out there, do you think it's going to change the way media looks at them, the way people who might seek them out for roles look at them? Will this change their individual abilities to keep working in the Hollywood area?
I will say no. Mainly because the society that we live in today, people have the memory of a goldfish. Like, this stuff is cool, it's popping right now, but Will's got like a new movie coming out, maybe like a year or two. It's actually a slave movie. I think Antoine Fuqua is directing it. But if that movie's successful, if it's popping, ain't nobody about to sit here and remember this. Like people are going to, like, something else will happen. I mean, 2020 has been so wild. This is just one thing that we could sit here and talk about. You know what I'm saying? Like the way this year's been going, something else crazy is gonna happen, and this will be small potatoes.
There's 2 points on that. One, as long as you don't make some disparaging remark about gay people or Jewish people, you're pretty much golden. You can have a messed up marriage and do all kinds of stuff. And even if you get called out there, you can just simply come out and say, try and control the narrative, say some things, and people will clap and celebrate and say, oh, they're so brave, they're so honest, yada, yada, yada. And you can move on with your life. The other thing is, if Antoine Fuqua is making a slave movie with Will Smith, you know how white folks in Hollywood love slave movies. If that thing has Oscar caliber, I hope he has his Ray Donovan cleaning up his background, because they will go after his ass and try and find some little piece of dirt so that they can scrap him off that list as far as winning an Oscar, just like they did. What's his name with I'm trying to think of the movie. The one about the slave rebellion.
Oh, Nate.
12 years a slave.
I know you're talking about. Yeah. Birth of a Nation.
Birth of a Nation.
Yeah,
man, that should have won an Oscar, and they went after him and just eviscerated his reputation. Then after all the Oscar stuff came out, was done, and he was out of the running, then they came out and said, "Oh, it was nothing to be said, nothing to see here. Sorry, So
well, Larry, you just made a great pivoting point. Speaking of anti-Semitic comments, we're gonna move. This Larry. You asked for this. I did not ask this man to talk about this. I did not ask him to bring his Hollywood credentials, his Black Film Review credentials to this, but you asked for it.
Yikes.
Eman, talk to us about what's going on with Nick Cannon. Poe brother feels down and out, just downtrodden. He wants his show. He demands his show. Then he comes back, makes an apology. Put this into a nutshell we can understand.
Man, I was literally debating, like, with myself for a couple days about whether or not I even wanted to do a recap episode on this, but since we here now, we here now, you know. So unlike Nick Cannon, let me be even more careful, you know, and how I, you know, categorize it. So from my understanding, because I watched the episode and I followed like all the news, the back and forth, the statements, and all the stuff that was going on. So Nick brought on Professor Griff, you know, onto his show, on his podcast, which right there was kind of sticky. It was kind of sticky. And it's not something to be concerned about, mainly because Nick is a smart dude.
Let me pause you for just a moment.
Go ahead.
For all of you out there who don't know who Professor Griff is, Professor Griff was a member of Public Enemy back in the day when Public Enemy was hot.
Yep.
Now, Professor Griff got kicked out of Public Enemy back in the day for making anti-Semitic remarks.
Yep.
So that's the starting point that we're running with here.
Yes.
It's not like this is something new for him.
Right. So it's just just think of it as you're bringing on a controversial guest, right? Mm-hmm. And it doesn't matter if you agree with them or not. It's no different than if you were to bring on Minister Farrakhan onto a show. Whether you agree with him or not, he's still a controversial guest. He's going to rub people wrong, you know, depending on what the topic is or whatever he said. So it was kind of tricky, but I'm sitting here thinking like, yo, Nick, he's operated in many white spaces, so to speak, in the industry. So he knows how to navigate these things, right? And for the interview was like almost an hour and a half or something like that. For the first hour or so, it was fine. You know, Professor Griff was saying his stuff. Nick was just going at it. They having a conversation. Nothing is wrong with that. What ended up happening, though, was Nick started to get co-sign. He started, well, there's two things. Because one thing was he had the charge of being anti-Semitic. And I think part of the anti-Semitism came from what he co-signed that Professor Griff was saying. So anytime you bring a guest on, and if they say, like, for example, if I were to sit here and say, like, all women are dumb, or I don't know, something like that.
I didn't say that.
Right. But Larry, if you were to sit here and be like, right then and there, you would agree. You'd be in agreement with me, right? Yeah. So that right there, and that was a hypothetical. I do not think all women are dumb, just in case anybody want to take me out. But just the fact that he co-signed was already like, boom, now you guilty by association. Yeah. And then he went further on Nick Cannon, and he not only co-signed this theory, but he put out a theory that was also anti-Semitic, but it was also pretty racist against white people. Now, the reason why I say it was racist, because people have different definitions of racism. Right. He put out a theory that basically people with less melanin, so if you're born with lighter skin, and he tried to use historical context to back this up, that because of the lack of melanin, that was the reason for the motivation of the historical racist acts that white people committed over history. That's what he was pushing out there and co-signing. And basically saying that because those people who had less melanin, or white folks in this case, that they were more savage in a sense. You know, so basically you're saying, or what he was proposing and co-signing was that if you're white, the reason why you might act racist is just because of your genetic disposition of not having enough melanin. So that, of course, got him in a boatload of trouble. Viacom, who is the company that basically oversees, you know, all of these they got everything. They got VH1, Comedy Central. They got all these different channels and networks, including his show, Wildin' Out. Yeah. Now, their side, they said they reached out to him, they tried to talk to him, and they were saying Nick was not apologetic. Nick did not see anything wrong with what he said, and because of that, they was like, "Yo, we gotta terminate our partnership with him," which basically means you're fired. Yeah. Right. Nick put out a statement and basically said he tried to talk to them, and he tried to, have some open dialogue and stuff. And for whatever reason, it fell through, didn't happen, or never happened. And boom, they're done. So then he started to basically say that they swindled Wild 'N Out, his show, away from him. Now, I don't know who's lying or not. I don't know. And I also don't know what his contract is, because my thing is that
morality clause in there.
Right. Now, that's the thing. Now, here's my position is, and I'm not defending or agreeing with anybody per se or views. All I'm saying is Nick Cannon gave Viacom enough reason to fire him.
Right.
Because of that, the clause in the contract, which almost everybody pretty much has. Like, if you do something in the public that looks bad, publicly, we have the right to part ways. And
don't
it's
Marv Albert on anybody, you'll be good.
Exactly. So,
sorry, Marv.
Maybe personally, I think Viacom acted a little too prematurely. I think they kind of buckled under public pressure, because Fox, and I know Fox has its own mess of issues, but Fox, they came out later and said, like, yo, we talked with Nick. Nick is actually remorseful, and he apologized, and he takes back a lot of the stuff. He actually took that video down too, after he sat down with rabbis and he got together with some people, and he was like, yo, I assumed a lot of this stuff that I was co-signing was factual, and it wasn't. I sat down with people in the Jewish community, and I learned why my words were so harmful. And he did a full 180 within like 8 hours in the day. So that's one of the reasons why I'm like, yo, Viacom, like, y'all couldn't have sat and just chit chat a little bit longer, because Fox was like, you know what? Nick did all this stuff.
I think Fox was partly so willing to be forgiving because they're right in the middle of their own scandal, where one of Tucker Carlson's producers had been on there for years.
Like I said, Fox got their own mess. They got their own mess.
Yeah,
you're right.
And so they don't want to sit up there and say, they don't want to come off as hypocritical and say, oh, well, we've been all forgiving towards this other dude, because it wasn't like they just didn't know about this dude. All that happened is he got fired after that came out. They knew about it. And so they didn't want to be called hypocrites and then have everybody up in arms saying, "Oh, you fired this black dude for saying something, and you have your white dudes going over here."
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is with, and this is for me. I don't know who Nick's agent is. I don't know what agency he's with. I'm assuming as big as he is, he should be with CAA or somebody. I'm thinking to myself, if I was their agent, I would tell him, "Nah, bro, you can't have a podcast. No. If you do, I'm dropping you," because without a doubt, you see all these people that have these podcasts, and they get up there, they get comfortable. They don't have the rights and clearances lawyers that they do when they have their network shows. They don't have them sitting over their shoulders saying, "You can't say that. We have to edit that." They don't have it. They're unfiltered, and some of these people should not be unfiltered. They're like the rest of us. They say stuff that they wish they didn't say later, except their microphones are a whole lot louder.
Yeah, everybody want to be Joe Rogan.
And the other thing is, with Viacom is owned. The chair of Viacom is Jewish.
Yeah,
3 parts of the board for Viacom is Jewish.
Yeah.
Nick, you got to think about that before you do it.
And that's where my disappointment in Nick came in, because I'm like, bro, you smarter than this. You know what I'm saying? Like I totally understand, even if you personally subscribe to whatever beliefs and stuff, even if you really do personally agree with everything Professor Griff is saying, the spaces that you work in and the people that you work with, you need to be like, you need to have plausible deniability if that is what you subscribe to. Like, he could say all that wild stuff and be like, dang, okay, man. Well, so that's how you think? Okay, cool. All right. That's how you think. That's you, though.
He might feel that way because he was married to a part white woman who was part white and Irish, whose parents were Jewish. So maybe he done got comfortable. He's got kids by Mariah Carey. So maybe he got comfortable.
It could be. I mean, but look, you also see this happening with what was it, Deshaun Jackson. You know, he also kind of got caught up in it. Steven Jackson, the NBA player, you know, came to his defense, and this is after he was like requoting a quote that wasn't it was falsely attributed to Hitler. But the fact that you're quoting Hitler, even if it's false at all, is a problem. And then I think Ice Cube also was retweeting some stuff as well. But part of the issue is, you know, and look, I'm not a part of the Jewish community. Because I'm not part of the Jewish community, I'm not in a place to tell them what's anti-Semitic or not, right? And I think what ends up happening is we as Black folks get so caught up in our own pain that does come from, you know, white supremacy and white supremacy ideology, that it's a little bit easier for some of us to latch on to something that gives us a reason to project our frustrations. Right. And what ends up happening, from what I've seen anyway, is there will be casual anti-Semitism that gets spouted out, mainly because we're also kind of culturally ignorant to what it's like being a Jewish person, you know, like, and I'm not talking about the Hebrew Israelite brothers or anything like that. I'm talking about just regular old Black folks. You know, I was reading a piece from The Atlantic by Jamel Hill earlier today, and she was just talking about how, like, even rappers, you know, they sit here and talk about, like, Jay-Z says something like, you know, the Jews own all the media or something like that, or it was some rap lyric, I forgot what it was, or 21 Savage or somebody saying like, I'm out here getting that Jew money, you know, and everything is kosher, you know. And it's kind of like, the way I look at it is the same way we know that there are degrees of racism, there's clearly degrees of anti-Semitism, and maybe people like Nick Cannon or Deshaun Jackson and others are just not aware of it, you know, the same way some white folks might not be aware of how racist certain things may be.
I'm not cutting them any slack like that, man. Because I'll tell you one thing that I have seen throughout history, and this goes to some Jewish folks in Israel, not necessarily here per se, but people who have been oppressed become very, very good at oppressing other people. They know what it is. They know how it feels. They know how to do it. And so when they decide to do it, they are very good at it. And we have seen that. And so sometimes we have seen brothers get up there and they say slick stuff, and they say stuff that can be taken as, was that racist? Was that anti-Semitic? Or was that just, and it leaves you in that space of uncertainty, but you kind of know, you just can't really prove it or say anything definitively about it. So eventually just let it go. And, you know, Black folks have had this whole thing for a couple of decades now. I think it started off in, you know, really with the Nation of Islam, when some of the stuff with Farrakhan and Elijah Muhammad, when some of the stuff that started to come out of their camp was anti-Semitic, and Black people started to take some of that and latch onto it. Then there was this whole movement about Black people can't be racist because we don't have any power. You could be racist all you want. And I mean, maybe you don't have any power to do anything with your racism, but that doesn't mean that you can't be racist. And so I think Black people in some respects feel like they have a freedom to say whatever they want to say about whoever they want to say it, because they believe themselves to be so oppressed that they can't be racist. And that's just simply not true. And if we're living in a day and age where Black folks are demanding that people, as some people call it, the cancel culture, if we're demanding that people be held accountable for their words and for their actions, well, we have to be willing to be held accountable for our words and our actions too. And I'll be honest with you, as far as his show getting taken, you know, or being canceled or him being fired, you know, I'm okay with that. Now, I'm okay with the fact that if he goes and he talks to people like you said he did, and he goes and spends some time reflecting and really coming to terms about what his beliefs are and moving away from the bigotry that he had, I'm okay with him coming back. I think people deserve to come back from their mistakes. But I'm not down for this whole, oh, I said something and now you're offended by it, so I'm going to go out there and make phone calls to Al Sharpton or Jesse Jackson or whoever is the, you know, or Ellen DeGeneres or whoever is the representative, the quote unquote representative for that group that I offended. And now within a matter of a day or two or a week or something, all of a sudden now I can say I'm rehabilitated. I didn't know. And now all of a sudden I have full knowledge of everything. And please accept me back into the fold with your good graces. No, you need to spend the rest of us. If we make a mistake, we have to spend some serious time, reflecting back on what we did. And it could be that we lost it. Like that lady who lost her job that got fired for calling the police and perpetrating a fraud in Central Park. She lost her job and she should have lost her job. And hopefully she'll have to spend some time dealing with what she did so that the next time that she goes back into the workplace or goes back into just her regular life and she encounters somebody else, she won't deal with that. She won't do that in the same way. There have to be some sort of consequences. It's like having a kid, you put them on restriction, they come out, they don't do the same dumb stuff they did before. If you let them get away with it by saying, okay, I'm sorry, and they spend a couple hours in a timeout, they're going to do the same thing again because they didn't get punished.
Yeah, I agree that I'm not really with cancel culture. I'm more so with timeout culture, if that makes sense, because I put Kanye on like an indefinite timeout for a little bit, because I do believe in second chances. I do believe in rehabilitation, if it's sincere. I don't like people going through the motions. Right. Like if it's a fake little apology just so I can keep my job. No. Like I want to know that you did the work. And you can usually hear the sincere change in people by what they say. Don't sit here and give me, like, for Drew Brees. Drew Brees was a perfect example. Mm-hmm. He did not get it the first time around, nor the second time around. He did not. Every time this man would come out and write this, I'm sitting here like, bro, you still don't get it. Like, you don't understand why we're coming at you. You have not talked to enough black people in your circles, and even his teammates were still shaking their head at him every single time he tried. Now, until I think it was like the third apology or the third time he tried to go on the president or whatever, like that was when he was like, yo, I completely misunderstood why people were kneeling. I completely understood. And please, and I was just like, there you go. Now you get it. Now you still got some work to do, because a tweet or two is not everything, but I'm glad that you're showing the right steps and not just doing performative action. I want to see like real action. Don't perform and just be like, hey, look at me, I said this apology. Nah, like actually do it and show me that you get it. So yeah, I'm with you on that. But I do think because Nick is a smart guy, based off of this man wrote a 1,500 word apology and statement and all that. I do think that he does get it now, because I think earlier today, even on Twitter, he had tweeted something saying like, all right, y'all, I'm out. I'm done with this, mainly because black folks were coming at him because they was like, oh, your apology is fake. Everything you said about the white folks and Jews, it was true. You ain't gotta apologize for nothing. Oh, now you just being a sucker because you apologize. And it's like, so I do think that Nick gets it, and I think you're going to see more. I would not be surprised if you start seeing him still doing this podcast and bringing on Jewish people. I wouldn't be surprised about that, or just trying to have more constructive conversations. So I would just say that's probably the trajectory he's going to go in now.
See, I feel you about not being down for the cancel culture. I don't always want to see everybody just kicked out of their space, but part of me just feels like sometimes people, they said what they meant.
Yes.
And they meant what they said.
Yes.
But because they don't want to deal with the financial consequences of it, they turn around and go and give an apology that, like Bill Maher. I think Bill Maher, he knew good and damn well he should have not have said the N-word when he did. And then like the next show that he had the next week, he brings Ice Cube on there and then he's up there giving his apologies, and I'm like, come on, man. I was like, you've been dating black women since however long. Maybe your ass got too comfortable or something. But you know good and damn well, you as a white man should not drop the N-word in any way, shape, or form. You don't quote it. You don't rap along to it. Like, I don't understand why some of these rappers are cool with G-Eazy. I mean, if I was a rapper and I heard G, I'd punch that dude straight in his freaking mouth and be like, this word is not for you. You know? But there are times people need, like you said, timeout. People need to be put on a timeout. Bill Maher, they should have just said, look, bro, rest of your show this season, you're not going to be back. We're just going to bring guest stars in to sit in your spot. We'll revisit you at the end of the season and see where your mind's at.
And I think that would be fair. I mean, the one thing I don't want to do is, and this is kind of why I don't like cancel culture per se, I believe in taking things on a case-by-case basis. Because just because one person says something and somebody else says something similar, that doesn't mean that the context is the same. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like I want to take every single thing on a case-by-case basis, you know, because at the end of the day, that's how we would want to be perceived and treated, right? Like
we don't want to have to be representatives of our entire race every time we walk out the house. And with that said, if we're taking things on a case-by-case basis, what do we do with Terry Crews?
Counsel him.
We just gonna go full spicy, huh?
Look,
We're just gonna get full spicy on this. Y'all didn't prep me for this. Y'all didn't tell me we was going.
We called you because the Avengers needed the heavy hitters, man. We only call you every 3 months. Damn.
All right.
Help us out here. We only call you every 3 months. And I've been sitting here patient and quiet. I ain't said a word in like 15 minutes. And you know I'm here scratching and clawing.
Let me leave this brother alone before he doesn't get any more interviews for his channel.
I see. I gotta.
Oh, he got the Infinity Gauntlet.
I gotta bust it out now. Since this is where we gotta go.
Larry, he got that for you because he got a snap to go back in time.
I had to bust this out because you had to bring in the final Infinity Stone to Terry Crews.
Oh man,
this is where we are. Lamar, go ahead though. Go ahead. This is your show. Go ahead.
I'm with both of y'all. It is a case-by-case basis, and to the merit and to the detriment of what someone does that should lead to being canceled. Some people mess up with their mouth, and then they mess up with their behavior too. Bill Maher is a classic one. I'm with Bill Maher. Should have been in timeout for a very long time. Yeah. But Terry Crews, on the other hand, he need to be counseled because he's dangerous.
He's Crews,
dangerous.
The problem with Terry Crews is there's a couple things happening. One, he's creating a straw man argument, and a straw man argument is essentially when, let's say, you know, Lamont is like, man, you know, apples are disgusting, and I come in and say like, what you mean apple pie is terrible? Well, he didn't say nothing about apple pie. He just said apples were disgusting. Right. So me creating an argument that Lamont did not create, that's a straw man. So I could beat up, you know, that easier target.
Sounds like Trump.
There you go. So when Terry Crews comes out and he starts talking about black supremacy, you know, and at the time, nobody is really talking about that. And let me qualify that too, because that's not to say that no one in the world has ever talked about black supremacy. Right, what I'm talking about is no one in a position of power is talking about that. It's no elected officials that are pushing that. And it's not like a mass movement that's going on pushing that narrative. So the problem with Terry Crews is that someone of his stature, with all his followers and all the people that are listening to him, when he puts out that information or that position that's not really a thing, that does not have any traction, you just gave it life. Right. You know, and the problem with it is that you're also feeding into the deflecting from the actual movement that's going on of Black Lives Matter and trying to get people to be anti-racist and stuff. You're giving people that oppose that movement yet another talking point. Because historically, and this is not theory, this is fact. Historically, there has always been like a white fear, so to speak, whether it was slave rebellions or when it comes to riots, whenever it comes to looting, there's always been this like fear in America that black people are going to get revenge, and again, that is not true.
No,
that is not something. Now, I'm not saying nobody's ever thought that, but collectively, on a majority, we've always just wanted equality and equity. That's it.
Right.
So
and
when Terry Crews,
extreme groups,
extreme groups,
that I'm saying even those groups that people have considered some of the most extreme groups have not been about revenge or black supremacy. They have been about black protection. They've been about protecting black bodies and black spaces. So when you look at groups like the Black Panthers and FOI, they have not been about going out there and attacking white people. They're been about
a terrorist group,
black bodies and black spaces. And so when you say something like that with Terry Crews, that it really just it seems like with him, it seems like the whole of Black America can talk to him and can shout out and say, "What are you doing?" And he doesn't hear anything. He'll just be like, "Oh, all you are crazy, a bunch of haters." A couple of white folks will probably get up in his ear and say, "Yeah," and then that's all he hears is, "Ooh, yeah, I'm on the right path. I'm saying something good. They like that," and then he'll go flex his little titties and people go Hercules, and he's out there cooning it.
Right there is exactly the second problem. The second problem is the fact that so his next infamous tweet was talking about and here's the thing. If you read his tweets, the first part is always fine. Everybody agrees with the first part. It's the last little thing that he throws in that we like, oh, what are you talking about? So when he sits here and talks about, all right, y'all, let's don't make Black Lives Matter into Black Lives Better. It's like, who was even saying that? Why did you even make that a thing? Because right there, you just fed the All Lives Matter rebuttal. You just fed that. So because even the All Lives Matter stuff, there's no action behind that. There's no movement behind that. All Lives Matter is not a thing. It's things that people say only in rebuttal. And if you really believed in All Lives Matter, I don't care if anybody said, "Hey, Black Lives Matter." If I'm All Lives Matter, I'll be like, "Yeah, I agree." Hey, Blue Lives Matter. Yeah, I agree, because it's all lives, right? So you shouldn't be saying that to counter people.
Right.
But when Terry Crews says what he says, it's like, bro, you are feeding into the deflectionary commentary that is used to quell and just kill the Black Lives Matter movement. And because of that, that is why people give you the label of coon and all these other things. Because you're literally saying things and feeding the opposition of your own self-interest.
Right.
And that's the problem.
And me and Larry sit here every week and we cannot understand why people do things against their best interest if it's only to just spite the person that they consider their enemy. And you took the words out of my mouth. Terry Crews is cooning, and he turns himself into the straw man for the opposing group of people, whether it's white people, whether it's whoever he sticks his foot in his mouth for. He becomes their coon straw man. And apparently he likes being that for whatever the reason.
It's sad because, again, when you're a social media influencer, when you have millions of viewers and followers and stuff, what you say matters. And I've read all his tweets. I've listened to his interviews on Roland Martin and then Don Lemon on CNN. And I was disappointed with both of those interviews because
Don Lemon, what somebody call what Dave Chappelle call him, that hot piece of work.
But in both of those interviews, nobody really addressed the problem, because every time they would sit here and be like, "Yo, Terry, ain't nobody talking about that," or like, "Terry, what are you doing?" And he would be like, "Oh, maybe I didn't hear it right. Maybe I'm missing something. But all I know is," and he went to Kanye rhetoric. He went to Kanye vibes. He was like, when I was little, people would always make fun of me or bully me and tell me, Terry, don't say that, you know, and this, and so his justification for saying some of this dumb stuff is because people have pushed back on it before, and he feels as though he's taking up this mantle that didn't nobody ask for, to champion this minority position to warn people about it when it's not even a thing. Right. And that's kind of, and to me, I'm just like, first of all, have you ever considered not the fact that people are telling you not to say something because they're bullying you, but maybe because what you're saying is actually dumb, and maybe because it's actually ignorant, and he's never considered that. And that's the problem. Like, he will, I guess one person on his Twitter will say something extreme and he's going to run with that. And it's like, bro, can you like stop and think and realize that that's not a thing?
I think some black folks who reach a certain level of success and they end up living a lot of their life around other white people, you know, whether it be in business or in Hollywood or the music industry, where they spend a lot of their time around other white folks. I think they end up with some sort of exaggerated sense of self and think all of a sudden now that they have some sort of elevated level of knowledge. And they forget that they're in that room, in that circle, because they're making those white folks money, not because those white folks like them or respect what they have to say. They're there because they are an earner, you know? And that's really what it is. Because if you stop making them money, you're not coming over to their garden parties, you know,
or their golf country clubs.
Yeah, I 110%. And this goes for anybody, not just celebrities. Right. But you should always look at the circle of people around you. You know, one thing I kind of tell some folks, because I have conversations with people from all different walks of life. You know, conservative, liberal, whatever, doesn't matter, independent, moderates, I don't care. Because I like conversation, you know, I'm fine with whatever. And the one thing I usually tell people is like, who are the last 5 to 10 people in your inbox that you talk to on a regular? What do they all look? Do they all look alike? Because don't tell me that you got this one Jewish friend, but y'all don't talk for like 10 years, or you got this one black friend, but you only talk to them like about movies, you know, or something like that. Like, who is in your immediate circle that feeds into whatever biases that you might have, and look at that and be like, yo, maybe I'm in this circle of confirmation bias, and we all do it. It's not hard to fall into that cycle of just getting I mean, look at YouTube. You look at one video of one thing, and YouTube's like, here go 10 more videos. Right. And it's easy for some people to sit here and be like, this is reality. Right. This is now the truth. Because clearly YouTube is telling me that. And it's like, no, it's showing you what they think you like, and they're gonna keep pushing that to you. You know, and that's what social media is, and that's kind of what we do with our real life friends too. You know, when I've seen people enact that cancel culture with their friends, you know, and it's kind of like, just because they have a different opinion, you know, like, so it's a lot.
I will say this in respects that there is a certain point when, even with your friends, when you realize that your worldview and somebody else's worldview are in such direct opposition that you cannot be in a friendship with them in good conscience. Because I've had to do that when Trump came into office. There are some people in my life that I simply had to say, no, we can't be cool anymore. If you believe that a man who thinks that my life is less relevant than yours because of the color of my skin, for health, for any reason, we're not cool. And I don't know who you are anymore. I thought you were different, but apparently you're not. And I can't be friends with you because I can't in good conscience justify having someone like that in my life. So there is a point in time when you discover things about people, you have to cut your losses, you know, and you could reach out to them and you could try and say, hey man, I need you to think about this for a minute, because what the people that you're associating yourselves with would rather see me dead than prosper. And if that's what you are okay with, then we have to reevaluate our friendship if there's going to be one.
Yeah.
And you know, and I'm not saying you do that with everybody, but there are times when people have to make choices. There are times when you pick a side. And I'm not talking about white or black. I'm talking about right or wrong. You know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
My grandma once told me, you don't need to just associate yourself with friends that's going to tell you what you want to hear. You need to associate yourself with friends that's going to tell you what you need to hear.
There you go.
And, you know, that's how we try to make it work around here. And y'all, that's why we got you up here. You in that glove, you had to make it happen. So now we're going to pull you down a little bit.
Thank you. I was losing oxygen out.
Now we're going to pull you back down to some more softer topics that we want to get through today.
All right.
Number one is New Mutants. I've been hearing a lot of buzz that they might go to streaming service, and this is a new trailer clip that they cut. Take a look, and we'll come back and discuss it.
New mutants are dangerous. You're not going anywhere. This place takes your greatest fear and makes you live through it. Roberto? Sam? Liliana? Danny? Rain?
We can get out of this together.
This place is designed to keep us inside.
He's right. It's magic. So am I.
That was so hot.
The New Mutants, rated PG-13.
Before we get started, since we're talking about Marvel, there's one thing I just have to say is that,
man, if you got to say something about
the rightful ruler of Wakanda.
Say that again.
I just have to let it be known that Killmonger is still the rightful ruler and hero of Wakanda.
He never yielded. He never yielded.
Here we go. Whenever he do that silliness, I got to play this for him.
Yeah, go ahead and burn all that.
My king, we cannot do that. It is our tradition.
When I tell you to do something, I mean that shit. Burn it all!
That is all the Killmonger we're going to get anymore this whole live stream, Larry. Just let it go, man. Golly, troubling these people. Some of these guests might not come back because of you and this love affair with Killmonger. My goodness,
man.
Man.
Like I said, sometimes you have to let people go based on your worldview.
E-Man, as I was trying to say, this movie was made like 2 years ago. It's got one of my favorite people in Hollywood, the chick that played Arya Stark in Game of Thrones. She's in this. And now because the movie theaters and what's going on with COVID rising again, a lot of dust has been kicked up that they're going to drop this one straight to Disney+. Your thoughts, and do you think that this movie is going to be good?
Oh, that's two whoppers. One, I do not think it's going to come to streaming, because if it was, it would have happened already. Two, according to what I've been hearing and people I've been talking to, Marvel wants to do something with these New Mutants. And I think that's one of the most prevalent reasons as to why it keeps getting pushed back. Because keep in mind, when the Fox acquisition happened a minute ago, you know, like that was like a year or two ago. Like they could have easily dropped this, especially you know, like what, February, March, whenever quarantine really started and stuff, when they had all the eyeballs there and Disney Plus was being launched and they were thirsty for content. They could have easily dropped all that stuff on there. Now, whether it would be good or not, I don't know. I think the thing with Fox is when they were making their movies, there was always like some good stuff in there, but it was just the total execution just kind of fell flat. And I think what's going to happen with this, what I'm looking forward to, I've always wanted comic book movies to cross over into different genres. So, Winter Soldier was dope because it crossed over into the spy espionage drama. Like it didn't rely on superhero stuff,
and it was still good,
and,
man.
and
That
it was
was a good movie.
fantastic. It was fantastic. So what I like about New Mutants, at least the prospect of this, is it's crossing into the horror genre. So now I do want to see mutants in a horror, and see what y'all do with that. Now, unfortunately, that's still done by Fox, so it's still it might be a little iffy. To be honest with you, I wouldn't even trust really Disney with a horror movie. Given what happened with Scott Dickinson with Doctor Strange 2, he was originally supposed to come in and do Doctor Strange 2 and for the sequel, and he was like, yo, I'm about to make this like a legit horror. This is about to be the first Disney Marvel horror. And whatever happened behind closed doors, Foggy was like, no. Nah. So they brought back Sam Raimi, which of course can give you the more lighthearted, funny, humorous horror, that he'll give you. So
Jada just has a different style.
His style fits what Marvel Disney wants.
Right.
Make this is my own personal pet peeve with anything horror related. The complete polar opposite of horror is humor.
Right.
So it's like oil and water. They just do not mix. You can sit here and scare the bejesus out of me, but the second you make me laugh, I lose that sense of horror and anxiety, and it's kind of like, well, what's the point of being a horror at that point? So, I think Raimi will bring that to Doctor Strange. There will be some jump scare moments, but then something stupid or funny will happen. But New Mutants, I think the only reason that they're keeping this in here is for the character Magic. And if you noticed in the trailer, Magic can play around with dimensions and dimension hopping. So with all this multiverse, Doctor Strange, stuff going on, I think that's the primary reason why New Mutants is still on hold,
right?
And why it's not going to drop on digital, because if it drops on digital, it's going to unhinge the connectivity with like Doctor Strange and maybe even WandaVision and other things that they want to do in the MCU.
You think that it would unhinge it when those same shows you're mentioning, WandaVision, Falcon and Winter Soldier, they are all still tied into the big screen properties.
Yes.
So I'm kind of like, if you drop it, you could still tie in that one particular character to the multiverse because of what her powers are. You could still tie her in. And because from what I'm reading about Doctor Strange 2, old boy is going to be coming back trying to take apart anyone that has these magical powers, stuff like that. And let's say that this mutant in this movie has it. I don't see how it would hurt the continuity, whether you drop it on stream or if you play it on the big screen.
I think for Marvel's perspective, now think of it like this. Now, first of all, I think we're all comic book movie fans, probably even comic book fans. So we are indoctrinated into all this stuff a lot better than casual moviegoers, right? So you sit here and talk to me about multiverse, I'm like, say more. Okay, I'm with you,
But most people don't get it.
Cool, I got you. Oh, Living Tribunal? Yeah, I got, we get that stuff, but Marvel, Disney, they have to kind of handhold the general public and escort them in safely. So they're not going to assume that your grandma or your mom or, the person down the street that's never opened up a comic book would immediately understand what's going on. So I think what they're going to do is they're going to have, WandaVision, they're going to have Doctor Strange kind of explain this stuff. I mean, look at what happened with Endgame. Endgame was really an explainer for all the stuff that's coming in phase 4. They had to sit here and be like, alternate realities exist, alternate dimensions exist, like they had to kind of spoon feed this stuff to the audiences, because for the most part, the large majority of people that saw this, because comic book fans and comic book readers are a small number of the number of people that actually contribute to these movies in terms of the audience. So they have to do a lot more hand holding. And I think New Mutants is probably too heavy handed for people to just absorb. We'll get it, and it'll be fine for us. But for the person that, let's just say, out of nowhere watched Thor Ragnarok for the first time, and that was their first Marvel movie, are they going to get it? Probably not. They probably need more time, to get comfortable. Because as we know, in the comic book world, they do a whole bunch of wild time travel. That's a thing of the past. Like, we done that, multiverse hopping, man, whatever. Dimension crisis on Infinite Earths and stuff. Like, this is normal stuff for us, but for everybody else, they need some time. So,
Larry, thoughts on New Mutants, and should we? I guess we're just gonna have to throw it out the window now because our Thanos has spoken. It is not going to be on the streaming platform. I might as well let my little wee go back down because I'm not going to get satisfied when we got him up here to tell the real truth.
I'm going to have to disagree.
Oh,
okay.
There's a couple of reasons why. One is that in the U.S., I do not think theaters are opening up anytime soon.
That's a good point.
I just do not see it. I will be surprised if we see throughout the entire 2021, we see any theaters open up, and there might be some that open up, but they're not going to open up at full capacity.
Right.
It's not going to happen. And on top, what may happen is we see more and more of these retailers, places like Walmart and Target and some of the shopping malls and stuff, start doing drive-in theaters in their parking lots. We might see more and more of that. We might go back to the drive-in movies, and that may be where they start doing their theatrical releases. But we're not going to see any wide releases in the theaters anytime soon. I don't think it's going to happen throughout 2021. It's just, and the way I think what's going to happen is as we start going more into the fall, it gets colder, we go back into the flu season, we're going to see more spikes. We have, it came out today that all these red states that were red, not as in red, blue politically, but states that were red as far as COVID, that they needed to shut back down and reverse all of their reopening phases and go back to a shutdown. But the White House buried that report. Once this stuff is out, and people start shutting back down again, and when Disney is forced to shut their parks down again because there's more spikes, they're going to start looking for a way to say, how are we going to bring some more money in? How are we going to make our investors feel that we're a safe bet? Especially since I think it was I forgot which credit one of those agencies, one of those analysts downgraded. Maybe it was Swiss Bank or somebody downgraded Disney from buy to neutral. Which
Morningstar. It was Morningstar.
First of all, I'm still buying.
They had to close their park. To close their theme park in China.
That's called a sale. I'm still buying.
No, right, and there's probably still safe buy, but when you have that happen, and then you have they opened up their park in the midst of the worst hotspot in the country right now,
Florida.
Amount of time before that has to get shut back down. California is another Disney place, and their stuff is shut down.
Yeah.
I honestly believe that Disney's going to look at all of this and they're going to say, you know what, we need to go ahead and bring in more people into the streaming platform. The best way to do that is to release some hot movies. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's release New Mutants. Well, maybe I know they pushed back, Black Widow. I think what they're going to do is hold Black Widow for a Christmas release date on streaming. And I think that they may do something different. They may start doing something with Disney Plus, where they start doing, sort of the pay-per-view on Disney Plus or something. They might do something like that to try and generate some more income. Mm-hmm. But I still think that New Mutants and Black Widows, I think they're coming out. And honestly, this is the way I feel. Like people like what's his name that's doing Tenet. I think this idea of trying to push people to go to the theaters like he's been doing, I think is wholly irresponsible. And if anyone needs to talk about getting shamed, he needs to be shamed over.
You talking about Nolan?
Push people to go to the theater because you want to see your movie on the big screen, because you want a wide release, because you want to earn money, because you think your movie should be seen on all the glory that a big screen has in the theaters. Yeah, but guess what? It's not worth people dying. And if you have someone who gets it, Tom Hanks, he said that he was like, I wanted to see Greyhound on the big screen. He was like, it hurt me when it didn't, but it's just not worth it. He was like, they put it on Apple Plus. He was like, the benefit is now. He was like, probably far more people are going to see this movie than they were if it was released in the theater.
Wasn't nobody going to go see Greyhound.
Yeah, and he said it hurt my heart.
Wasn't nobody going to go see Greyhound. Get out of here. Can't wait to go see that naval movie. Get out of here. Hey, it was perfect for Apple Plus, though. It was perfect for them.
Right.
It was perfect, But look, let me just throw this out here because I think you're bringing up a very good point. And everything I said is contingent upon the information that we know now, right?
Because before you go on, let me tell you the contingencies. When I went out today, I went and did a curbside pickup today for some groceries, and I did a curbside pickup at Best Buy. And when I was driving to and from, what I saw was no mask, no mask, no mask, no mask, no mask. Everywhere was no mask. I saw a pregnant woman and her little 10-year-old daughter walking down the street, no mask. I'm like, when I saw all of this, I think the people that I saw wearing masks today, besides myself, and I think two other people that were in a car next to me, was the gentleman at Best Buy who said, would you like me to put your product in the trunk? And the lady who brought my groceries out and already put it in the trunk because when I pulled up, I had my trunk up. They both had masks on and gloves on. Everybody else I saw running around, they didn't have masks on, or they had their mask down, pulled under their nose. Same difference as no mask. So what I think is going to happen is we're going to continue on in this pandemic in a terrible, terrible way that's going to cause the theaters to stay closed. Now, I'm sorry. That was just when you talk about when you say things are contingent on, that's contingency and people are not taking care of themselves.
Yeah, no, 100% that. I mean, look, when we were in February, we were thinking like, oh, all right, we got to go into quarantine. This will be done by April, and then by the time March came, all right, we'll be good by May. And then May come around, it's like, all right, July, and it's like we here now, we talking about maybe August, but given the way people are kind of, the fact that anti-maskers exist, the fact that that's a thing, whatever. But I won't get into that. But I absolutely agree with you that it is 100% contingent on that, right? So because we don't know, nobody in their right mind could have predicted how stubborn a lot of people have been with this pandemic. Just the mere fact, I mean, and this is not just typical behavior because this is new for probably a lot of us. I don't know anybody alive who's lived through a pandemic and has to go through what we've gone through, so, and not to mention, this is a novel virus, as in we don't know nothing really about it. We're learning about it every single day. One day it's doing this, the next day it's doing this, and, so on and so forth. So the information is coming in, people are doing whatever, and it's like there's a weird intersection that's happening that keeps on prolonging us. Even though other countries seem to get it together, we just can't get it together, and it's hurting our movies. But one thing I would say is that, especially with Nolan and with Disney, there is going to be a rock and a hard place eventually. And what that is going to be people still acting ridiculous and not adhering to safety precautions and money. Because you still have, keep in mind, these studios are still run off of money. They still run and make these movies the same way they do investments. They put in $200-400 million into a movie because they want $1 billion back, right? But what happens when you put it on digital think about that.
Right.
Trolls, which is a family movie, big thing, and that was like the first thing in quarantine. So clearly that was like the big hype or whatever. It only made like $100 million. $100 million? You mean to tell that's gonna put you in the negative if you drop a that's why Black Widow will probably never make it to video on demand, because you're not going to take that kind of money, especially if you think it can earn more. Onward got dropped on the Disney Plus. A lot of people was like, hey, Onward cost like 200 million and they made XYZ. Well, that's also because Onward wasn't projected to make that much money. So they was like, yo, they calculated that risk and it was a business decision. Yo, if we drop this in theaters, we probably not gonna make that much anyway. Drop it on VOD, on video on demand.
Disney and some of these studios probably need to go and look a little bit at what Amazon has done, because Amazon is like the world leader in loss leaders.
Sure.
They will put stuff out knowing
that they're gonna take a hit.
Not necessarily gonna make the money that they would expect to make from that product, but it's gonna lead you into other things where they may make more money off of you.
Yeah.
And these other and this is the part of the thing. The business model, because of the pandemic, the business models are changing. And all these people who think they're going to have all these theaters to go to, let's be real. AMC is damn near bankrupt. They were almost bankrupt before the pandemic. Yeah. And now they are hanging on by a thread. And if we have to go through, the summer, summer is a huge movie season. We have to go through the summer and the fall with the theaters closed. AMC's done. They may get a small infusion to stay afloat for a short bit, and then they're done. Regal's not going to be far behind that. I don't know what Cinemark's situation looks like, but not only are we going to lose some of the companies that are doing theatrical releases, and once they're done, it's not like people can say, oh, somebody else will just step in. No, because there's a whole lot of contracts and licensing that you have to work out. And not only that, from a real estate perspective, I was watching something today. They were saying they are expecting that there is going to be, I don't know how many thousands of malls around the country that are going to close permanently. And they were saying movie theaters are predominantly in malls now. There's not a whole lot of freestanding movie theaters anymore. Most of them are in shopping malls. And they're saying that a lot of these malls are going to close permanently, which means those theaters are closing with them.
Yeah.
So, this whole thing has just gone from bad to worse for that industry. And I really believe that the best thing that these studios can do is figure out a new business model, because their old one is effectively dead, whether they want to accept it right now or not.
Yeah.
Well, I got one question for Eman.
Sure.
Because the whole reason I'm thinking they might move to put New Mutants on demand is because it's been made 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
They only looking to use possibly one character, as you mentioned, and I think that it would just be a safe bet for Disney to put it up there, because no one is like Larry said, we're not going to no movie theaters between now and the end of the year. It's not going to happen.
Right.
And we haven't even gotten through the first phase of coronavirus, and we still got to contend with what's going to happen in November. Yeah. And we still living with idiots. And y'all been very PC about it. I'm not. My degree is in science, so it just burns me the fuck up. I'm sorry. But we're dealing with idiots, man, who we know where they're getting their information from. And these are supposed to be the same people that claim they care about the economy, they love the country, and they wave these flags in front of their yard because they love the country, and they're ruining people's lives. I just had a daughter. Am I going to be able to take her to see a Marvel movie in 2 years? I hope so. But it doesn't look like we're going there now. So those things are what predicated my idea that Marvel is going to have to drop one of these movies on the stream platform. Maybe they won't do Black Widow. But my issue, E-Man, is will this not mess up the continuity of their movies? So let's just say they're already saying they're pushing Black Widow back till next year.
Mm-hmm.
They're probably going to have to push back some of their next year movies too.
They just pushed back Falcon and Winter Soldier.
But that was supposed to go to the streaming service.
I know. Oh, yeah, I know. But I'm just saying, like, when one thing gets pushed, it kind of affects everything else.
It messed up the whole continuity.
Right.
So.
And that's kind of.
Here's the thing, though.
Yeah.
they're talking about these theater companies are talking about opening at like anywhere between 25% and 50% capacity.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you're already, as a studio, you're already on a 50-50 split with the theaters anyways. So if at some point they have to look and say, okay, if AMC and Regal and Cinemark and whoever else, United, they can only open up and say 25%. And now we have to split that, and that's assuming that they fill every seat of that 25%. Now, if we have to split that 25%, where is their money going to be made?
It's not exactly that way, not yet anyway. So it doesn't. So the way it goes is when a movie first comes out. Let's say a movie ticket costs $10, right? Mm-hmm. $9 will typically go straight to the studio, and $1 from that ticket will go to the theater. But that's why the theater marks up their concessions, because that's where they make their money. Now, as the movie stays in theaters after week 5, week 4, that balance shifts. So instead of only making $1, now the theater can start making $5 because it's been out for like 5 weeks. So the longer a movie stays in theater and it keeps playing, the more money the theater actually makes. This is one of the principal reasons why Universal Studios got into that beef with AMC and Regal, and they was like, yo, we boycotting Fast and the Furious, we boycotting all y'all movies, because Universal Pictures wanted to drop movies immediately in theaters and on video on demand. And by doing it at the same time, you're eating into the theater's profit. So they don't exactly make the 50-50 on the jump. It takes a little time for them to get to that point. But Lamont, to your other point, I do think that a lot of this has to do with continuity, because that is what Marvel's really based a lot of their stuff on. I mean, they are so into continuity that it was Olivia Munn. She had talked about how she wanted to come and play the role of Psylocke, right? But the problem is Marvel does not like to double dip. Like, they don't like to use characters twice. And Olivia Munn, if people recall, she was actually in Iron Man 2, I believe. She was like a reporter for like a second or two, whatever. But yo, you're a reporter. You're done. That's your MCU role. You cannot be Psylocke, Now, I think that's a little whack. It's a little too much. Psylocke can be a reporter. But I'm just saying, that's just an example of how strict and how serious they take the continuity stuff. They don't want nerds like me and you and everybody else to rip them apart and be like, oh, hell no. That person was in there before. That shit, So they want this stuff to flow in a certain way, because what they are doing is historically remarkable, and it's unprecedented. We haven't had a connective cinematic universe to this degree with this many films, and now introducing TV. Star Wars is probably the closest, but Star Wars was kind of playing catch up a little bit too. And they want to keep that ball rolling, so that's why I'm just hesitant to believe that if you're willing to push Black Widow, and then because you push Black Widow, that pushes Falcon and Winter Soldier, and that pushes WandaVision, and that pushes everything else, I have to kind of suspect that you're not about to make an exception for New Mutants. Now, as a Black comic nerd, I don't care. You know what I'm saying? You can drop that right now. I'm watching it. Okay. Right. I'll sort it out later, but I'm just assuming that the way that they go about things, they care about money and they care about continuity, and all that stuff can change if, the pandemic continues. Right. So it's really got to be wait and see for now.
Okay.
Well, we'll see. I'm thinking that I think they're going to reverse course on Black Widow. I think she'll drop before the end of the year. I fully expect that.
I hope so.
I fully expect that's going to be a Christmas movie.
Yeah. I don't think Black Widow is going to drop. I really don't think they're going to drop that one. But New Mutants, that one's going streaming. I just got this feeling that one's going streaming. But we'll have to see.
But,
and when it does,
you know what? Maybe it'll go to streaming after Black Widow comes out.
Right. Buzz 703, Green Lantern and Deadpool, they're different universes. That's why. So different worlds.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't subscribed to Eman's channel, what the hell are you waiting for? You get the honest to goodness truth without cuss words in his videos.
And no
Go
spoilers.
subscribe to that man's channel. And now we're dragging him into me and Larry's world. We're going into the investments. And y'all been following me and Larry. We've been doing our stock investments since the coronavirus took the dip. So many of y'all have made so much money just by listening to the stocks and things me and Larry have done. And the main one that we suggested is in the news. My homie, Market Gains, did a video and we talked about it. I want you guys to take a look at this. Then we're going to come back and talk about some moves you can make next week in the marketplace. But this one right here is all about Tesla.
We are at the good old meme stock Tesla. This is probably the most hated stock on Wall Street and the stock that's most loved as well. Everyone has a love and hate relationship. Like, you probably made money on Tesla, you probably lost money on Tesla, but let's be real, most people lose money on Tesla. But there's a really good trade so far that captures one of the coolest things about options trading, which is pretty much getting hundreds and hundreds percentage of gains in simply like a couple of days. So we all know about this Tesla run up from July 10th all the way to July 13th. It was a really good run up. It was like a slow and steady increase of the overall stock. People made a lot of money. I mean, Tesla options were honestly pretty cheap compared to what was the price at July 13th. It started going up. It was at the peak and eventually it dumped. But for the people that actually enjoy the gains at the peak, hopefully you sold before this giant dump, because ever since this giant dump, Tesla options were just never the same. So if you check out this guy who YOLO'd a bunch of money on Tesla options, he has a total return of 377%. This one single contract has a market value of $17,000. So he only invested a few $1,000s and he's getting a lot of tendies. And so far, this guy, he's gaining a lot of money, 14K gains on his Tesla YOLO contract that he bought right now. It's currently worth only $5,000. Yeah, it's only worth $5,000. In the picture, it was worth $17,000, but because Tesla took an absolute giant dump and then it was flat for several days, and that adds into the time decay, the overall contract went from $17,000 all the way down to $5,000, which makes it one of the craziest trades out there. Now, we'll never know if our man ever sold his contract, but if he did, he's looking at some pretty good gains of 377%. And also, hey, turning a few $1,000s to 17 grand, that is a really, really sweet way to make money.
So I introduce people to that because something I've been working on behind the scenes is I've started doing a whole lot more options trading. And when Tesla dropped down to $450 right at the coronavirus quarantine, I told everybody to go buy some because I felt like it was going to at least go to $900 before the year is up, and they superseded that. So when I first bought my Tesla, I knew that brand, that business was a game changer. And I knew if you could get the stock for cheap, me and Larry got in on it at $450. I got like 12 shares and saved it. And I trimmed back right when Tesla got to 1,000. And I said all that to say, I'm starting to learn how to do options trading. And I've been reporting back and forth to Larry each and every week that I've been selling puts, making $500-$600 just here and there, not really risking a lot. Tesla is a great stock to do that if you can have the collateral to go and sell a put with Tesla. And so, Eman, that leads me to asking, what do you invest in? What type of investments do you do? We've got real estate holdings, we've got businesses, and we've also got heavy stocks. What type of investments are you doing, and what has been something that's worked for you during Corona?
Yeah, so one thing I do not do yet is options because I just never learned it, and I guess I'm kind of a Warren Buffett type of investor where like I like the very core basic principles, so I don't invest in things I don't understand or industries I don't know. So because I'm in the tech field, I invest in a lot of tech most of the time. I got into, and I was lucky, I got into investing right when in 2008 during the recession. So I got in at a good time to just, you know, and I had no kids at the time. So it was cool because I had some free money to just kind of throw in there, you know. But, you know, like I jumped in on Facebook like early. And Facebook did, you know, pretty well. You know, I'm a huge advocate for Disney stock. Even today, I don't care if it's downgraded. That's a sale, you know, for me. Because in my mind, so like I say, I like to use practical reasoning and understanding when I go into my stocks, and I also like dividends because I'm a long-time investor. I don't really do day trading or anything. So if I'm gonna keep something, I want to make sure if I'm keeping you for a minute, you still paying me something with the dividends. But
let me tell you how much I bought my Disney stock for.
Go ahead.
$21 a share.
What?
That's sexy. That's sexy. I got into Disney around $60.
What?
You know? Yeah, I got in at 60 because. But here's the thing. So this is how my brain works, right? It was in 2012. What came out during 2012? Avengers. Right? Avengers comes out. Marvel's picking up and everything at that time, but Avengers was blowing people away. I went to the theater at least 3 different times to go see it. It was sold out every single time. And then as I was in the theater and I'm seeing everybody just into this movie, and I, you know, later on I found out like this made $1 billion. And I was like, movies can make $1 billion?
Yeah.
And then I, you know, put 2 and 2 together and I was like, wait, Disney owns Marvel? And it was at that point I was like, if you're making billions of dollars and y'all are just in phase 1, and that's not even your main money maker, Disneyland and all those other things are, and y'all got Star Wars and Star Wars is making billions. I was like, oh no, I got to invest in that. So it was like that kind of logic and rationalization that got me into those type of things. Of course, I always invest in the S&P 500 and the Dow Jones, just because just overall you're going to get that 10% give or take gains, you know, over the long run. You know, I've had some risky investments. I personally like to invest in Uber, and even though the stock is not doing very well, one of my personal principles is if something becomes part of common language, it's going to be here for a while, and it's going to be hard to replace it. When people say, yo, I'm about to Uber over there, and they jump into a Lyft, Uber's here to stay. You know what I'm saying? So it's that kind of
DoorDash.
Right. You know, like when I was in high school, and I remember having a conversation with my friend, and we was like, you know, hey man, I think this Google thing is going to be something. You know, I didn't know how to invest at the time, but it was just that insight, you know. And then what happens? Hey, you don't say go search for it. You say go Google it. You know what I'm saying? So
it's become a verb.
It's become a verb. So like when these things become part of the language, that's the point where I'm like, I think it might be something worth investing in that's going to be here for a while. You know, so you know, Microsoft was definitely something I got into Microsoft when it was like $30.
Man,
when it, you know, and that was like pre-Xbox. Nobody was really checking for them, but they had a good history with their dividends. Like they were like a blue chip dividend, you know, company. Matter of fact, let me pull it up, see if I got any others for y'all. Apple, I was always a big investor in Apple.
Now see, I've been trying to get Larry. I've been trying to get brother Larry to diversify his portfolio and add more dividend paying stocks.
Yes.
So I do a mix with a foundation of, I have ETF stocks.
Yes.
The foundation of my portfolio.
Yep.
But my number one thing I go for is growth stocks, asset stocks, which is heavy tech.
Yeah.
But in the middle, I go for a whole lot of dividend stocks.
Yep.
The trade-off with some of your dividend stocks, you're not going to get as much growth appreciation in the stock itself, because these companies' number one thing to do is to pay shareholders.
Right.
Yeah. Disney pays a dividend, but that's not their number one thing that they want to do.
Right.
And the number one revenue driver for Disney is not the movies, it's the theme park. The theme parks cover 65%
Yep.
of the revenue for the overall business, which is why I'm telling people, while Disney got down to $99, and me and Larry did a show, and we said if it gets down under $100, scoop up the shares.
Buy. Yes.
And today it ended like 118.
Yep.
And we're still saying buy because the number one revenue generator is down right now.
Yep.
It's down.
It
When
is a
ESPN
sale.
back online, when all the theme parks open back up, they get the movies rolling again, that stock is probably going to shoot to 175.
Yo.
This is my prediction.
Yo, 2021 is going to be on fire, especially with the movies. Everybody who is tired of being quarantined, but I've been seeing people going for walks. People don't walk, okay? I've been seeing more people on my block than I've ever seen in the 8 years I've been living here, okay? So the second the green light is given for people to go, oh, you know what? Another one, and I haven't invested in this too. I would look into Live Nation. Live Nation is
concerts.
They do concerts. Can't nobody go to concerts, right? So the stock is rock bottom right now.
And I'll give you another one. MSG, Madison Square Garden.
Yep.
It's like the number 10th most visited venue in the world.
Yep.
Their stock is somewhere like $19 right now.
Yeah.
52-week high was $50.
Yeah.
But
and
they're closed.
Just to kind of comment also, like the thing with the dividend. Now, I don't know if you guys have like just regular individual accounts. I've put all my stuff, like my riskier investments. So all these stocks I'm talking about for me are in my Roth IRA because I don't get taxed on the capital gains that I make. So all the money I've earned in the past couple of years, when it's time for me to cash out, I'm not going to get another, I don't have to pay taxes on that. And that's in my retirement fund as well. So that's one of the...
Are you doing a self-directed IRA or are you doing a traditional Roth?
Self-directed.
Okay.
So
so you can put away 50 grand in your self-directed IRA because you're an independent contractor in essence.
No, I'm sorry. No, it is a traditional one. My fault. Because I do have the $5,000, $6,000 limit or whatever. Yeah. But because of that, that's why I did dividends more so than growth. Because even though I still feel like some of mine are dividends / growth, like I look at Facebook as a growth. Even though that they don't pay a dividend. I look at Disney. Disney is a growth in my opinion, just because by the time I retire, that thing is going to be a ridiculous amount, and they're still paying me dividends. I'm invested in McDonald's. They pay a nice dividend, even though and they're still growing. So I like to find those magic, combinations in the stocks for my Roth. Now, if I had an individual, then I wouldn't be so focused on dividends because dividends is something you do for the long run. That's when the stock is down, you still getting paid. When the stock is up, you still getting paid and you get the growth. So I just didn't want to put that out there for the viewers to think that you got to get a dividend. It's nice, but it benefits you more when you're a long-term investor. And that's me. Like it takes me literally years to sell my stocks, because never be emotionally invested either.
That's all I'm telling Larry. With his long-term growth appreciating stocks, I'm trying to get him to buy some dividends. So
I need to get some more. See, because
ETFs that I have in my portfolio, those are all they're growth ETFs, but they're all high dividend paying ETFs, and they pay monthly.
And there's low expense on those too. Because
my brokers don't charge me anything for them. I can do all the trades, anything I want, and I don't get charged for it. One bit.
No, that's good. I just wanted to mention that too, like for because ETFs are a great way to go. Or what is it? Index funds, index mutual funds, because you just want to make sure that with those mutual funds, basically they can be run by a company or a leader or whoever. Or you can have the index ones that are kind of like more digitized and they just kind of go off of the numbers. But as long as that expense is low, they're not going to charge you and eat into your profits as much, so you can keep more of the money that you earn over time.
Right.
Larry, what you do today? Because I know. See, here's the other thing about Larry. Larry, I'm telling everybody this story on you because I thought I was your brother. And we started this stock thing together, and we've been giving the people the honest truth. And E-Man, I just got to tell you about Larry.
Oh, boy.
There have been 3 IPOs that have happened in the last month. Okay. He knows I'm into this business research and stuff. So he'll say, Lamont, check this one out. Let me know what you think. So I go through that balance sheet. I go through the whole 9. And I say, Larry, you should or you shouldn't. And I tell him why. So this one company came up and I was like, Larry, don't do it.
Ooh.
Guess who he listened to? He ain't listened to me. He listened to his wife.
I took an L on that.
He listened to the person he's married to. And guess what? It didn't work out the way he wanted it to work out. Okay, so cool. We get past that. There have been 2 IPOs that have come out. Larry tells me the day the IPO drops, he was like, Lamont, such and such drops. So I get on my computer and I'm like, Larry, we could have made so much money just day trading these companies. Why you ain't tell me the night before so we can be prepared? And so, man's just supposed to be my brother, and then he treats me like we're not when we get to those points. So, Larry, you got to do better.
I felt bad on those 2 because there were 2 of them. One of them I didn't buy, but the other one I did.
One of them was Lemonade.
Yeah, Lemonade is the one where you really gave me grief over. I bought that one, and that one really took off. I bought in at 52, and it's at 85. It closed at 85 today, so it's been growing at a nice clip. But there were a couple other ones that that I've been sort of looking at. They're probably not like really long term unless this is the way we deal with school and stuff just changes forever. But a lot of it has to do with like stay-at-home education stuff. So some of them are tech stuff. Like I was looking at Dell. I didn't buy them, but I was looking at Dell the other day because I was, they were talking about how this year instead of people buying school clothes for back-to-school stuff, they're buying back-to-school tech because they're like people who have 2 and 3 and 4 kids. They're like they may have one computer for all those kids, and now they're going to have to make sure every kid has their individual device because they're all going to have to go to school on their laptops at the same time. And so, and sure enough, I was telling Lamont about it, and sure, I didn't buy Dell. The next thing I know, Dell shoots up. And so,
he
I take my own advice.
Listen. So, E-Man, if you ever decide to get you like a second brokerage account, like a Robinhood or something like that, don't hesitate not to hit me up because I'm researching this stuff every single week for the options I'm doing. And Wednesday, we talked about the way it's looking with the quarantine in America. It's going to be nothing but mostly online education from now until the end of the year. So some stocks that we said people should buy right now before next month gets here because it might take a run. K-12 is a great company. Their stock is $45. They do online education. They supply the materials, the lessons. You can do the whole thing online. Chegg is another one, and Fastly is another one. And of course, you want to double down on Google if you don't have any because they provide the cloud platform for it.
Right.
So those are some stock tips we gave people. If you want to get something that's probably going to take a good run between now and the end of the year, those are some great choices you might want to get your hands on. And I actually bought some Google. I actually bought T-Mobile because of where they're supposed to be going with the 5G network. And the other ones I mentioned, I picked up some of those too.
Now, one other one, Royal Caribbean.
Don't buy it now.
I know. No, I know.
Don't buy it now. Not now.
Yeah, but
you want to get it when we can see the light at the end of the tunnel. When they announce that we've got a good working vaccine, or they announce that cases have decreased by 50%, that's when you got to jump on those. But right now, you can do it.
See, now for me as a long-term investor, I don't mind. You know what I'm saying? I can buy it, sit and wait, and I'm not going to look at it for like 3-4 years after people have already been going on vacation and stuff. But yes, I agree with you with that. But I was going to also ask you what your thoughts were on some of the pharmaceuticals. So, for example, like Abbott, the people that are doing some of the coronavirus, the COVID-19 testing, the actual testing kits. Of course, when you have the president sitting here propping up your company and propping up your devices, I mean, I didn't jump into it because I don't really get into the medical stuff too much, but I looked and them stocks started going up, you know, like real fast.
Did you see what happened to them after that week? They went back down.
Yes.
They're still at their 52-week high, just about. They're at like 99 today. Their 52-week high is like 100.
They were higher than that. After that week he gave that speech, they went higher than that. And the other one that I wouldn't personally touch because it seems to be too close to the president. It's one called Gilead. I don't know if you heard of that one.
I have. Yeah.
I wouldn't touch that one. But the one that seems to be in the front of the pack in terms of America, they're getting to the next phase is Moderna. I would touch that one. I would touch that one with all my hands and all my toes. As a matter of fact, I bought some. I bought some. Moderna.
What's it at now?
Shoot, give me 1 second to pull it up.
I'll tell you. Here's the thing. Here, I was gonna bring up Gilead if I didn't mention it to you. I think I sent you the article, Lamont. They're developing with MIT, I think it is, a new face mask that's made out of like silicone and something else, where it has the N95. It's a new silicone respirator where it has the N95, respirator parts right here. But apparently, it takes a lot less N95 material to do the same job. And because of the way the material is, it fits to people's faces a lot easier. You don't have to worry about trying to do whatever you have to do to shape it on. You just throw the mask on, and you're good. The thing forms to your face, and the thing is that it's washable, it's reusable, and so you don't have to throw it out like you do with with like where you use N95 and you toss it. This one, it uses far less material, so you have to replace the filters, but you can keep the mask. Apparently it's supposed to be a much more efficient way to wear an N95 mask. It's supposed to be more comfortable and reusable. So, and Gilead is working with MIT and some other organization up in Boston. So I mean, that may be something that comes into effect later if this pandemic drags on, but I still think that's gonna move the dial eventually. So we'll see.
Here's one other one I got, and this was one I got. I call them the golf tips, because my buddy was first of all Visa, always jump on Visa.
Yep.
But
I got Visa and PayPal. Visa pays good dividend.
Yes, so Visa, but because he went golfing, and it was one of those tips that somebody at a high paying position talked about on the golf course and blah. And I told him, I was like, yo, every time this man comes back with a golf tip, whether I got the money or not, it works out. So the one that he put out there was called a CYDY. CYDY. Now, from what I understand, they were, I want to say, what were they doing? They were doing it was either cancer or HIV testing. It was something like that. But they were on the verge. They were on the verge of, let's just say, finding a cure for cancer. Or they had some really good positive results. Well, I'll just put it there that way. And then when the pandemic hit, they started working on coronavirus vaccines and stuff like that. And they were making major headway of getting FDA approved, So, I mean, you could only imagine if a company actually comes out with a vaccine and it's FDA approved, that thing is about to go through the roof. So, the stock is very volatile. I got into it when it was like $1.70 or something like that.
Yeah.
And then
down to 26 cents during the year.
Yeah, I mean it's gone up and down, and I'm just like, you know what? This is why I'm a long-term investor. I'm not going to deal with this stress, because it went all the way up to like $10, and then next thing you know, it went to like $5, and I'm like, whatever. I got in at $1, so
You're good.
I'm good either way.
You good.
But it could be something to just keep an eye on. And I don't know what kind of disclaimer I need to put out there. I am not a stock advisor, so please,
we got you covered.
You put the little fine print. Don't try and sue Eman, because Eman ain't telling you to do nothing. About nothing. I am not a professional stock advisor.
We tell everybody the stock market is an up and down roller coaster. But what you should be doing is investing for the long term and not doing the short term stuff that you might occasionally hear mentioned that I do. Right. But I mean, I sit around, I study this stuff.
If you study it, then go for it. But
yeah,
I'm
if
much more
Moderna,
gut
as you was
instinct investor.
asking, I tried to get Larry. Did you buy Moderna when I texted you Wednesday?
I did. I bought Moderna at 81.
And I got it for $80, and right now is $94.50. I got 10 shares, and
Nice.
See how I text Larry? I said, Larry, I'm getting ready to get Moderna. I done my homework. I read the press release. I checked the books. You get some, and see, look how he profit. But when an IPO come out,
this is what I do.
IPO come
all
out,
that research. I get a feeling about stuff. I'm much more of a gut feeling.
I'm a gut feeling guy too. I'm with you on that.
So I get a gut feeling about something. I hear something that somebody said, like, oh, these sectors may be moving or this might be moving. I think to myself, oh, what are the other surrounding things that might support that? And I look and see what companies are doing that. And then I send them to Lamont and say, here, check this out.
Yeah.
You know? So like one of them I send Lamont, which I think is going to be a big mover, is Corning, because Corning makes medical grade glass. And that's what they put these vaccines in. And so someone's, they're going to, I mean, if you're talking about buying billions and billions and billions of these vials,
especially if what is that Defense Act or whatever, if that ever gets enacted and the president basically has to force manufacturers to, start getting going on them, then yeah.
Well, he did that for ventilators. I mean, I even told people about the stock companies for ventilators. They made them some quick money if you wanted to get in and get out within 6 months.
Yeah.
So, and another one we've been telling people is get you some Microsoft if you don't already have it.
Definitely.
Bill Gates is building using Microsoft funds. He's building these warehouses to do nothing but mass produce the vaccine.
Yep.
When someone gets the vaccine
through Microsoft.
Yeah, they're building warehouse space via Microsoft.
Okay. And I'm already locked into Microsoft, so I'm good.
Yeah, I've got some of those too. And then me and Larry was just talking about people that are going to be doing syringes. So put some Johnson & Johnson in there, and you like dividends. Johnson & Johnson been paying dividends since 1908.
They have,
and they still been going up. So that's another one. They're going to be making syringe kits dealing with the vaccine. So. We keep a good eye on this stuff. We're nerds when it comes to some of this stuff, man. We look at it for lunch.
That's good stuff. No, that's good stuff. I mean, I when I was in my office at work, when I could go to the office, that's what me and my coworker, we sit there and explore different stocks and different things. The biggest problem that I end up having is I ain't always got the money. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like, I mean, I've gotten to the point where like I have automatic bill pay. So, whenever my check comes in, I throw some money into the brokerage account. And then maybe like a couple months later, I can go in there. And if there's something hot, I'll just see, all right, how much do I have saved? Oh, a couple $100. Boom. All right, I'll put it in this. And then that's the only couple of stocks I'm going to buy for the next couple until I get some more money. So that's the only thing. It's just, I don't always be having it, man. Like,
yeah, when you're doing recommended, it's so expensive.
Yeah,
like I just can't get down with these $3,000 Google shares or Alphabet shares. And
I bought one. Yo, I had some Yum stock, and the Yum stock, that Pizza Hut, Taco Bell. No, Pizza Hut, Taco Bell, all of that stuff.
Okay,
I'd been sitting on that stock. It paid dividends, so it wasn't a total loss. But just in terms of growth, that thing earned me after like 7 years, like 7%. And I was just like, man, y'all got to move. You know what I'm saying? So I got rid of that. And I sold all of that just to buy one Amazon stock. Okay. But I bought that Amazon stock during the pandemic. So it was like at like 1,500 or something. I don't even know what Amazon's at right now, but I just know it ain't no 1,500, know. So it was cool. That was the only time I could buy a big money stock was when everything else was sucking, and I could only buy one, and that was it.
That's how you got to do it, E-Man. That's me and Larry. We were buying stuff up left and right when it hit the V, the bottom of the V.
Yeah.
Like, what was that, Larry? Like the second week of March, we was buying up everything.
You were buying more. I didn't buy a whole lot then. I should have been buying, but I wasn't buying as much. I should have bought more. I'm waiting for that next big I'm waiting for that next big downturn, I'm set for it. You know, this is the thing. Lamont and I joke about it sometimes because I take far more risks than he does.
He sure does.
With my stuff. I mean, I'm not okay with losing money. I don't want to lose money, but I'm okay if I take a big gamble and lose. Like I took a gamble on that Albertson stock, and it's funny. I sold it at the perfect wrong time because it went down to like $14, and then it dipped down just below 14 into the 13s, and I was like, as soon as it gets back over 14, I'm dumping this because I don't like where it's going. And so I dumped it at like 14.25 or something like that, and now it's up to like 15.35. So I probably should have held it for a little bit longer and then sold it. That was my gut instinct, and I went against my gut because I was just got a little scared, but I should have kept it. But I think I'm much more risk adverse in some respects because, I don't want to lose my money, but I kind of look at the money I put in here is not throwaway money, but money that I'm willing to lose in the pursuit of bigger gains.
But you also gotta, because I get anxious with new stock. It takes me like a week to buy a stock. Like PayPal was one of the stocks I was considering, and the only reason I didn't buy PayPal was only because I took that money and invested it in the S&P 500 and the Dow Jones, and it was a much more safer bet for me to do it at that time. Even though I do think PayPal would have been a good one too. But the other thing that I try to do, and I need to practice this more than I preach it, putting in limits, the stop yield limits or whatever. So like if the trailing stops, if this thing goes down by 5%, automatically sell it. Just things like that. You got to put those things in there to protect your gains. Because for someone who doesn't pay attention daily, I could be sitting around 6 months from now. I'm like, yo, how did this go from like $100 to $2? What happened? But with those little, stops in place, you protect yourself.
You have to be careful with that because you'll buy a good stock with something like Tesla that's 1,700, and you have that limit on there, and all of a sudden
you lose.
You get sold out at like 14, and you're like, wait a minute, I don't want to sell that.
And that's why I don't put it on. I'm telling you, it's a good idea to do it, but I also don't do it, and that's why I need to practice what I preach a little bit more. Yeah. But then again, because I'm long term, so I'm like, yo, even if it takes a big dip now, 4, 5, 6 years from now, it's probably gonna come back anyway. So it won't make me much of a difference. So
right,
I mean, on average, stock market is going to get you at least 8%.
Yeah,
on average, at least 8%.
Yeah.
You sit around and do this craziness me and Larry do, you might get that number up to 25. But
I have.
you're trying to be passive. You're trying to be passive in your investing. And me and Larry, we sit around here, we go back and forth every day saying, look at this, look at that, this is what's working. And hey man, we all trying to get it, baby. That's what we're here to do. We're trying to get it. So
absolutely.
Ladies and gentlemen, I do have a newborn, so I'm going to cut this thing short right now with the brothers. You guys will see this Avengers hook up again whenever there's a crazy topic that we can't handle without using profane words. So we want to shout out Eman. Be sure, go to that man's channel, subscribe, watch his videos. He puts out some of the best content. Black film critic. Salute the brothers showing love. And Eman, we will give you the last word as we get out of here.
Man, thank you guys so much. Definitely, come and check me out. If you're on Facebook, Eman's Movie Reviews, #1 film critic on Facebook. And I'm not exaggerating. I checked. I ain't seen nobody with as many followers. That's an individual critic. And at least if they black, then I'm still #1 there. But anyway,
I like it.
But yeah, no, look, come for the news, come for the trailers, come for the memes, come for the reviews, come and celebrate and be on the lookout. I'm gonna drop this here because I'm literally working on it now. I got another interview coming up with the one and only Charlize Theron, and that is huge.
Wow.
Because like I said, I do my research. And a lot of people, you know, I was listening to all these interviews, and I was like, how come ain't nobody ask her this specific question? So I finally dug something out of her, and I got her to say something that's exclusive. So you don't want to miss it on my channel, probably in the next day or so. And I got Kiki Lane, who was also in the old guard, who was talking about for about a year now how she wanted to play Storm in the MCU. And I asked her,
Shotgun Mary?
Huh?
She was Shotgun Mary?
No, she was in If Bill Street Can Talk.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But because she had her affinity to play Storm, I asked her, how you feel about Janelle Monáe coming in, you know? And she gave me the best answer I've ever heard anyone give on a comic book character role. You don't want to miss it.
When is that interview dropping, man?
I'm gonna drop that probably Monday or Tuesday, give or take. But the Charlize one is gonna come first, and then the Kiki Lane one's gonna come right after. Because it was all in the same interview, but I'm gonna break it up because it's two different topics, you know.
Okay.
But yeah, I had to give her a round of applause. I was like, yo, that is the best I've ever heard anyone respond to anything Storm related. You gonna love it. You will become a fan of hers off of that answer.
I can't wait. So, ladies and gentlemen, be sure to go to that man's channel because he's dropping these stars the way that supernovas drop them. And I can't wait to go over there and listen to all this good stuff. Be sure to subscribe to Larry. I know y'all already with him. And until I see y'all on Sunday, peace out.
Peace.
Man.